All right, we're live. Welcome everybody to another contributor meeting. Got some hopefully, I think exciting stuff. At least I know I do. If you're excited about fixtures, some exciting stuff that we're going to talk about. So I'll go first. I think though that Julian is going to be able to join us because we were supposed to start earlier, and I know that Sheriff isn't going to be able to, and I haven't heard from Prashant, but we have a bunch of other good people. So I'll start with my status. I worked pretty much this whole week on making fixtures better, but through doing that, I found a whole bunch of problems with can set and can connect. The real thing that I did, which was, oh, hold on. Now, I guess Julian is going to join us, but I did give him the email link. Hold on a second. Let me get into the show. Oh, there he is. There's Sheriff. Here's Sheriff. You can hear me. Let me get into what I made possible, which was you can now create. I think what did I think this in like Toby's. Okay. Here's the example that I want to show off that I made possible. You can now make fixtures a lot easier. Basically something I've wanted for a very long time, which was fixtures that could do sorting and could do pagination and could do other kind of filtering. The same filtering that set algebra now understands. So what you can do now is you can pass a fixture. Let me make this bigger. Whoa. What you can do now is you can make a set algebra that describes your service layer and the properties that act upon it, and then you can create a fixture store with data. You can also pass it the same old, like the way that you used to be able to do it, is say, hey, I want to create 1,000 items, and this would return a description of those 1,000 items. But you can also just hard code and pass the data now. And what this will do is create a kind of microservice that can filter and sort and understand by the right ID. And then now you can, if you give it a RESTful URL and you give pass can fixture a store, it will write out all of the get, put, post, delete URLs for you, which is really nice. Can kind of simplify the creation of this and how powerful the fixtures can be.
So what's different about that? You used to still have to provide with the
previously you'd have to write out I was actually documenting this. You'd have to write out this kind of thing,
Yeah, for each one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
You have to write that out, which is a nice improvement. The best thing to me about this is we actually got rid of code, because previously, and I put the old legacy code, this was all the legacy code to make the filtering and sorting and things like that work based around the parameters. And it was all kind of hard coded. You had to use the property order to actually do sorting. Wasn't very extendable. I think I was the only person who ever really used this functionality when I was on clients. But I always really liked it. And now the cool thing is now what's actually happening here is can fixture to make that behavior is actually using the memory cache of can connect. So can connect has something that can do sorting and filtering and whatnot based on set logic. That's its memory cache, and its local storage cache does all the same stuff, just in local storage. So all I had to do is really create one, which kind of happens. What is it? So I'm trying to find where I actually do this. So all I have to do is kind of create a connection, and then I pass it to this store constructor, which essentially just wraps its methods so that it calls the connection in the right way. So like for create data, it's going to actually generate a fake ID because our that doesn't happen in the local storage or in the memory cache, and then it adds the ID as part of the response. Little things like that, I just need to wire it up, but I don't know, whenever I can remove a lot of code and then the result is something better, it makes me very, very happy. So that's mostly what I worked on. And I did a big refactor. I actually tried to, I worked pretty hard to make this so that someone else can understand the code now. It's really cleaned up good code. So, and I've been working on the documentation for it. So
did you keep all this stuff that I did?
I did. I did. So yeah, CanFixture is a lot better, and then because of the test for CanFixture, I found a bunch of bugs inside of CanConnect and especially CanSet, and those are now fixed now. So good times all around. That's my update. Who wants to go next? Julian? Hey, Julian.
Hi. Yeah, I can. So, yeah, what I do last week is I worked on Steel and Steel Tools. Still, I make some pull requests for some issues, and yeah, this is so now I think Matthew we can release 0.1a16 next week as you wish.
I suppose so. Yeah.
And then with 0.16 we support npm, hopefully good enough, and the main multi-main with npm should work better. So this is what I do last week. I also, and maybe we can talk about this, is what I want to bring up here is TypeScript. Yeah, I talked to Justin shortly, and yeah, I read about TypeScript, and maybe we can not rewrite CanJS in TypeScript. Maybe it's opinion in the future. If TypeScript become more and more important, we can rewrite CanJS in TypeScript, so we can remove can construct and all the stuff, because we don't need any extended class system, so we can use TypeScript for that. So the code would much cleaner than now. So, but for now we can provide a type definition.
Julian, do you want to talk about this at the end of the meeting? Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think because lately we talked about this in the last time. We're going to try to do everybody's status within like 5 minutes, and then we'll do like discussion. If they
okay, sure. So I'm finished.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, who wants to go next?
I can go. Julian, I'm going to mute. Yeah, there you go. I did have a little bit of feedback for you, Justin, about the Bitballs guide. Just a couple of things. There was a couple of places that I didn't fully understand that I think could maybe use a little bit more explanation. One was where you talk about the I think it was called the list set. So it's like what set that the list belongs to. There's like a short paragraph about what that does. Took me. I mean, I think I understand what it's doing, but I guess maybe it needs a little bit more explanation of why you need to set that. Kind of what the. I mean, I think it's because this particular set. You're saying that this particular list belongs to this set, right? It's like associated with a particular game ID, right?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm super happy to talk about that after the status part.
Okay. Okay. So you don't want to talk. You Well, okay.
Like, I think what we should do is like say what you want to talk about after. Let's just maybe go faster if we just all say like give your status real quick, what you've done, show it off, highlight it, and then if there's something you want to talk about after the status part, then just say I want to talk about the status part, and then we'll go through those things and talk about it.
Fine. Yeah, so I have two little bits of feedback there that I'll talk about after. So my status part is I am working on CanZone's timeout capabilities and the ability to like have some debug information. I did like a rough draft of that yesterday, last couple days. I do not like the kind of API I came up with the timeout zone. So I'm redoing that so that I was having it that it created like a new promise for timing out. So there was like kind of two promises associated with the zone. I think that's stupid. So I'm just going to have it that if it times out, it rejects the zone's promise. So simplifying that. And then I did do debugging as well yesterday, and it worked pretty well. So that's all in CanZone. And then when I finish that, I'll move on to kind of using this new functionality in server-side rendering. Done this, so that's me.
Cool. Thanks for reading the guide. I appreciate it. Who wants to go next?
I can go. Oh, go ahead, David.
All right. Well, so I finished the generator guide finally. There was a big refactoring that Manuel is probably going to be talking about for the CLI and all this stuff. That also came with it and had where's here. So this is how the guide looks now for the generators. Notice we have a new syntax. Where is it? Everything is going to look like this now. So when you create a new app or a new plugin or something, you just say DoneJS add or a component, but you can like add a generator, a plugin, or an app when you create a new one. The rest is pretty straightforward. This one does JS hint. In the process of that, we finished the functionality for overriding templates. We talked about that last week already. And there was a couple of issues here. We still have one standing with Windows that I probably need to talk to Matthew about. It turned out that Windows npm install didn't work the way we expected, and we just didn't notice it until yesterday. So we gotta fix that one, and today, before I take off, I'm gonna do another CanJS release. So the Windows thing is probably what I want to talk about later.
Cool. Thanks, David.
So that's it for me.
Awesome.
I'll go next. I recently worked on just some steel bugs that I found. One was using locate to find a package from within a CSS file. So you could do something like Bootstrap JS, or not JS, obviously, buttons like this. And you would do this via import, right? But that wouldn't work. We had it only set up to do kind of like, well, first, the import would work, but that would give you a path that was kind of like this, node modules, but then there was another step that we needed to do, which was to make that relative to the HTML page that you were developing on. So then from there, it would be like, you know, node modules, on and so forth. Yeah, so this step here wasn't happening, so we had to add some regexes there and make sure that these paths were being created properly. I had to make those changes to two repos. One was the what was it? The Steel CSS repo, and then the other was the DoneJS CSS repo. not too bad. And then the other thing I'm working on is getting CanDefine set up with components in CanJS, which yeah, I think we've talked about CanDefine here a bunch. It's like the adderless version of CanMap. So that's coming along kind of nicely. Justin's helping me out with that a little bit, and that's about all.
Cool. Thanks. Manuel?
Sure. So there were some remaining issues with the work that I did last week about the DoneJS add commands that David mentioned, and I worked on that at the beginning of the week. Then I work on refactor of the CLI of Bastille Tools, and I can show some of that. Unlike the DoneJS, well, this isn't on the screen that I want to share. This one. So hopefully you can see that. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Unlike the DoneJS CLI, Bastille Tools uses yards, and the nice thing about yards is that they have like this concept of providing common modules. So this is like the binary, and without all this code here, that basically what it's doing is providing a default command that yards doesn't have like an easy way to do it. We have to spawn like the default command when there is no argument provided. Without that, the code actually, it's really nice. You only provide the commands and the command modules, and I can show you one of those modules. Basically, what you have to export is like the command name. Describe that this is basically the help. When you type --help, this is what it shows. And then the most important properties of these modules are like the builder, which is an object that describes the different options that you can pass to the command, and the handler itself, that is a function executed when you actually use the command. So I can show you that options, that most of the Bastille Tools commands share the same options. So that was cool because I could like put all the options in its own module and just reuse it in the different command modules. And you can see that each option is just an object, and you describe like the alias and the type, and if it has default values or not. So I did that. That was already merged. And then yesterday I started working on the conditional extension for Bastille. That was kind of working, but there was a problem with the npm, the system npm plugin. So I just wrote a test to fix that. And basically the problem was when it was normalizing, you needed to run the module name through the whole normalize again to make sure that the module actually, it's a npm package module, a correct npm package module. So I did that. I probably submit a couple of pull requests later today, and then I'll probably just read the guide that I didn't have time to do earlier. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Jan?
Yeah, so I think since last week, all of the plugins deprecated and otherwise are published. And Justin, I know we talked about maybe versioning to match with CanJS. For now, they're all on at least a 1.0 release. CanMapPackup is the only one that has its own documentation site, since it's the only official one right now. The rest will be linked to from canjs.com. And yeah, the thing I'm working on now is CanJS standalone. So Adam had gotten the jQuery dependencies down to a few files, and so I'm working on like getting it down to, basically it's down to 3 files, and I'm working on getting it down to 1, and then hopefully 0 jQuery dependencies.
Oh, and the 3.0 docs are on the home page now, right?
Oh, yes. So you can preview the 3.0 docs right now. So the main difference that you'll notice, well, one of the differences you'll notice at this point is a distinct lack of plugins.
You can remove fixtures from there too.
Mm-hmm. With can fixture.
Yeah, there's some yeah, because it's a separate module now.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But doesn't that also depend on what we're going to do about CAN model?
What do you mean? CAN model's gone in 3.0.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got to take that one out as well. So.
Yeah. Be nice, slim down library. Although I imagine all the stuff is going to go into the new CanJS site. All right. I don't know if Sheriff, I think, well, he keeps coming in and out. I think everybody else is gone. So now we can do the fun part where we get to talk about things. So TypeScript, pros, cons. How do you feel about it, Julian?
Yeah. What do you think about that? So back to TypeScript. So I read about TypeScript, and yeah, we could not rewrite CanJS in 3.0 to TypeScript, or we should not. Maybe we could, but we should not, and Justin want to wait until TypeScript is more future-proof, or But I think we just should jump on the train. So because other frameworks all provided a type definition for their framework. So what I would do is provide a type definition for TypeScript, and that can look like this. Maybe I can share it what I've done. So maybe this can look like this. We have declare module and have to write an interface or a class, and can define some of the static functions or method or the constructor method. So we can provide this. So the cool stuff is that now we have full code intelligency. So we can write, and the user can see in TypeScript what the function provides as an object, or what he can write into. And if we use a define plugin, we can say, oh, we have a getter, setter, but we have don't other methods that are not provided. So, but Justin mentioned that we can generate this module structure or this type definition with CAN or with document.js, but I'm not sure if we can do that, because there are some points we have to make a constructor a constructor factory where we put our new in, so we can extend, and we have this foo back to our variable. And maybe I don't know if document.js can provide us to do all the stuff here.
I think it could provide most of it, actually. Like we've already like a lot of things are typed already in CanJS's docs. What I mean by that is, if you look at I think you might have to like edit it, but I think you could give us in less time and in a kind of a maintainable way, because it supports Google Closure's annotations, which are like strikingly similar to TypeScript's annotations anyways. Like, just to give an example that I was just looking at yesterday, which is, if you look at fixture, there's a handler, and all these arguments and their types are specified. So fixture takes this handler function, and then this handler function has different signatures, and there's a response function within that also takes, has different signatures, and those are all their types defined and the argument name, right? So something like, maybe something like can construct, which we do say as a constructor, and we do have all the static properties and the extends signatures, or like, if maybe there's not enough, but we could create the other ones, or we can infer because they're optional what the signature would have to be. It actually might be possible to just generate it from our type annotations that we do, right? Because it's all, well, I don't have CanJS open right now. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, I think it might be more doable than.
Would that just be like another generator, like we have the HTML generator?
Yeah, just be another HTML generator that would read all the exports. So, like, let's look at CanFixture, for instance, which is. Right, so, like, we have type defs where it's like, okay, a request handler takes this type, CanAjax settings, and takes this type, response handler. And then response handler, here's the definition with types of the response handler. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not into deep to TypeScript to say, okay, we can make this. So yeah, the general question is, should we provide TypeScript definitions? Should we or could we rewrite CanJS for in future in TypeScript? Or yeah, how? Yeah, but my big question is, should we jump on the train to TypeScript and because other users from Angular in Angular 2 you have to write or you have to write your script in TypeScript, so there are many users out there that will use TypeScript. So why would we not jump on a train and say, okay, if you came from Angular, here you have CanJS, it's also provided TypeScript, it's also provided type definition, so you can also switch your code from Angular to CanJS, and you know what to do. But yeah, but two questions. So yeah, I need some help if we do this manually type definitions. I need some help out there who can write type definitions with me. So I'm not into deep. So because type definitions are, yeah, you have to into deep CanJS. You have to understand the definitions, what you can pass, what you get back, and all the stuff. So I'm not into deep that I can write definitions yet. So I need help. On the other hand, if someone can write type definitions in a generator, okay. So, but yeah, this is a two race. So we have to figure out which way is the best. So, any thoughts about that? Should we not provide TypeScript?
I guess I shared my thoughts. I think that providing TypeScript annotations would be great, right? I mean, I don't know if it sits right now in terms of where it sits right now in terms of priorities, but I think TypeScript. I think that type safety is a very nice thing to have, and it's for a segment of people who want to build things. That's going to be a really powerful tool. I think I slightly disagree with you about the size of that right now. Like if you took the number of people doing TypeScript compared to the number of people doing JavaScript, it's like there's a huge gap between those things. Now the nice thing, of course, is with TypeScript that, well, we can still provide a JavaScript API so that, well, people who want to write JavaScript are still writing JavaScript. So my thing with TypeScript to just should we build CanJS in it? Not at this point, because it's just not ubiquitous enough to me to make it worth it. Because I don't know what other type-safe languages might come out or who's really going to win that. If it is TypeScript, then good, and then it makes the decision easier. I just think we're not. I'd rather get 3.0 out, and that instead of waiting on. Right now, I'm not convinced it's necessarily the alternative compile to JavaScript library that everybody will be using 3 years from now. because I really, once you rewrite it, it's one thing to like go from JavaScript to probably like TypeScript, but I don't know what it would be like going from TypeScript to like something else. that migration might kind of scare me. So that's why I'm like hesitant to dip my toe in there.
Wonder if there'd be a what? Probably the answer is almost definitely no to this, but kind of like how our generators produce ES6 code right now. It'd be cool if like our generators could produce, like you could DoneJS add app and type / TypeScript and it does a TypeScript app. The answer is probably no to that.
Yeah, but we should talk about how we use TypeScript in CanJS project or DoneJS project, because I'm not a fan of compiling TypeScript into the browser. So this is not how it works, I think. So we should provide an IDE like WebStorm or Visual.
Provide an IDE.
If you got the time for that, then go ahead and do it. I love the idea.
No, I don't. I don't want to.
We just need to do the type definition.
There are many IDEs out there that provide TypeScript compiling on the box. So there are WebStorm, there are PHP Storm, there are Visual Studio, and all the stuff, and Atom also. So, but the main is that we do not compile TypeScript in the browser, so we compile it at the IDE, and then a JavaScript file is created, and we import that JavaScript file. So I don't think it's like CoffeeScript. So
What do you mean by I don't understand what you mean? You said we need to do this. Like that's up to the individual user to decide how they compile stuff, right?
Sorry, I don't understand that. What do you mean?
I guess I don't understand. I understand what you're saying. I get, and you're probably right that it is better.
Provide the hooks or the generated files to tell.
Yeah, I guess my question is like, what do we need to do to help people that are generating it in the WebStorm or in the IDE? Like, what can DoneJS do to help them?
We need a type definition. A type definition that provides the interface to CanJS or DoneJS and all the stuff. So the user can use this type definition and write TypeScripts in his own IDE, and the IDE will compile the stuff or will compile the files for him. So the problem is if we could also compile the TypeScript on the server side with Node.js, but this is because if you use type in an IDE, you have this nice little errors you get if you type in a wrong type or make an issue. So you get a feedback from your IDE directly, and not if you compile first in the server or in the browser. That's horrible for debugging.
Julian, I think the place where you should start with this actually is the new CanDefine plugin.
The new CanDefine.
Yeah, the new can-define.
Okay.
The reason for that is because in terms of type safety, right? In a normal CanJS application, well, outside of the templates, which I don't actually think you could. I mean, you would have to write CanJS. I doubt that a type system could even help you in something like Stash. I doubt, like, if we wrote Stash in TypeScript, if the actual Stash templates themselves could use the same IntelliSense and things like that. Like, if you write a met language in TypeScript itself, does that language then also become, like, known? I doubt it, is what I'm going to bet. Okay. I'm making that assumption, right? That the templates, like something like Stash templates, gone, right? You can't be done. Now something like a React or JSS probably can, or like EJS, because inside is JavaScript and gets compiled to JavaScript. There's probably a way to do it. Or maybe we'd have to make it compile to TypeScript, so TypeScript can actually do the type safety. Probably doable. But let's just assume that's far out. So there's only two places then that people really write CanJS code, in the templates and in JavaScript right now. And in JavaScript, you're typically dealing with observable view models. That's like 90% of like the properties that you're going to call or things like that. So if, in 3.0, if the define plugin, which can be just added to a normal JavaScript function, which I'm sure TypeScript has its own ways of like, oh, I want to make a constructor, and then you can just call define, and you pass it an object and list all of its properties. If those, now essentially your constructor, we made it so that it understands those properties, and any methods on your constructor, we're basically adding observability to it, and those properties are type safe, well then you have a lot of what you would want with very little. You'd have the observable layer type safe. Maybe that's the best place to start.
Okay.
Because like something like CanMapPackup, that's not actually very valuable to have type safe, I think, because, well, you can put in any property. I can put in zfoo, and that's totally valid, and it won't complain. And if I pass an object, that's totally valid, it won't complain. That's different than the new define plugin, where if you try to set a property that you didn't define, you can make it so it gives an error for that. Oh, this property doesn't exist. It's not an observable property, it's not added. Oh, you try to set it to something that's not a string or something like that. Oh, that's a problem too.
Well, sorry, I know you're done. I was going to say it would be useful for adder for like if you pass in the wrong number of arguments, it would
yes,
know that. Yeah.
But that's not. I don't think that's like the kind of mistakes, and that's not what you want Intellisense for. You want Intellisense so you can do dot first name or dot full name, and oh, I know full name is a string, right? That's the kind of thing you really want Intellisense for, I think, and type safety.
People use Intellisense to like discover how APIs work.
That's true, and that's what I'm saying. You could see all of the properties on your view model, and the methods would be listed in a normal type sense way. TypeScript.
But is this provided by TypeScript?
Is what provided by TypeScript?
That you have Intellisense of your can define attributes you defined.
I'm assuming if can't. I mean, in TypeScript there are IDEs that support Intellisense with TypeScript. I'm making that assumption. That's got to be true.
But you say you want to, if you type foo and dot and then you want to get your property, you want to get an error, but TypeScript don't know what you want. So but
it could be if we had type definitions for the new define plugin.
We could.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's like the natural. I'm saying if there's a place to start, it's not start with all of CanJS. It's to start with like. It's to start with just. So I don't know what it looks like to make a class in TypeScript. I have no idea, but let's just say it looks like this. I don't know, something like that, right? And then this. What we could make is a TypeScript, if the define plugin and you pass it your class and you pass it your properties. Like string. You're labeling which properties you want as observable, and you're doing the I mean, ideally, with TypeScript, if I did something like this, I should get a type error. Because if the define plugin was written with TypeScript, then it would see that you're adding these things to the prototype, and it would know that, hey, well, full name is a combination of both. It's returning a value that's a combination of first and last. I don't know how you specify like argument return types, but it knows it's reading first as a string, last as a string.
I don't
then
think
this
it works.
must be a string.
Type definitions are not dynamically created.
Yeah, that's not working. In type definition, you declare an interface and declare what your properties are, and not in dynamic way.
But most of the time, okay, I guess I would assume a lot of languages have the ability to do it in a like a pseudo-dynamic way. I'd have to.
It might be possible.
I don't know. Okay, but I would assume there's got to be a syntax for this. Then, like, you would give a.
Yeah, I guess if you wrote it in, yeah.
You could say that this is like a string property. There's got to be a way to say like, well, this is string prop. Like tell something in maybe you're giving different things in TypeScript. But I guess I would say that to me, getting this kind of thing to work would be the goal. What I would really want out of type safety. So I could say like, well, the actual computes and things like that are, and the result of that is knowable on whatever class you're doing. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. Maybe it's not. But that's where I would start.
I don't know it's possible because it's not written in TypeScript, and if it's written, if the define plugin is written in TypeScript, maybe it could work. But with type definitions, you always declare an interface of your class and not how the logic will work. So you say, okay, there's a method, and this method gets an interface, and this interface is provided with some strings and maybe are not, or numbers. But I think you can't get that.
You can't. So you can't generate another. Could you make it so it can generate another class from a class? Do they support that in terms of type definitions?
Yeah, you can return a constructor that return type.
Okay, so we could make a version of the define plugin, which there kind of already is. There's already this define constructor. So if you were using that, then this could define a type where the types are known.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe I have to look into. But yeah, I need also help with that. I'm not fully into that, so maybe someone can help me with that if someone have time. If it's not your priority, maybe we can put that into the future.
Yeah, I mean it's for right. I think providing them would be great. It's not my priority right now. I really want to. My priority really is getting a new CanJS website and getting 3.0 out.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll see.
Okay.
Cool. Anybody else have something they want to talk about? But I should say, my priority doesn't necessarily mean that needs to be your priority. Like, I'll still help you any way I can. It's just I don't have the time right now to do the heavy lifting or something like that. But if you want to do it, I will totally support you.
I saw a demo last week about TypeScript, and they are planning to use a compiler as a language service. So basically, what you will do is you will set up your editor, like for example, Atom, to use the TypeScript compiler as the JavaScript language service for the editor. Basically, it will just like read through the code and give you Intellisense about it. And the nice thing about that is that they already support like the closure annotations. So I guess that when they land that feature, we'll get some nice completion if you set up your editor to use the TypeScript compiler already, because we use the valid closure annotations in document.js.
Yeah.
I think that would be like 1.1.9. They are currently 1.8. I think that's like half the way.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem is, I mean, the problem with like anything that we do, unfortunately, is we generate a lot of functionality. So it's trickier to make type annotations work, right, in that scenario. I don't know. Well, let's ponder it for longer. Was there something somebody else wanted to bring up? I thought somebody said something. Oh, Matthew, you want to talk about some of the?
Yeah, I just had a couple of things that I didn't fully understand from it. One was like there was an underscore list set, and there's like a small paragraph where it says why. It says, actually, I don't remember what it said, but I didn't completely. I had to think about it in order to think I know what it meant. I didn't fully understand for sure what it meant. Might bear a little bit more explanation.
All right, so I don't know what I know what the one you're talking about.
Search for yeah, there you go. That one, yeah. So what that does is say, this is what I think it does. Tell me if I'm wrong. What I think this does is that this new value is a stat.list, right? And this stat.list, it's telling it basically that this belongs to this particular game, right? So that when it does its filtering, it filters only stuff within this stat list that belongs to this game.
Yeah, it's a way of saying that essentially the list, this list, I probably should have called this like new stats or call it stats or something, that these stats here, so I'm loading a game, and the game is coming with an array of stats, right, nested in its data. Mm-hmm. Now, I want it so when a stat is created for this game, it shows up in this list.
Okay.
In this list. So I need that list to know the set that it represents.
So basically, because CanConnect uses a list, a store, it has the store. Anytime anything new is created, it can automatically become part of this list. If it
matches, yeah. So anytime any set might be created, if it belongs to this set, it will get inserted in this set. So this is a way, like eventually I think what this all enables, but you have to do it manually right now. What it'll enable is like really intelligent relationship, I think, understanding. I mean, in the future, it'd be really nice to say like, well, game has many stats, and say like that's as the stats property, just like you would in Ruby on Rails or something like that. Or other ORMs support the same thing, and what that would do, it automatically kind of set up this type of logic for you to say, well, anytime I get a game and it has stats in it, well, I'm going to automatically say, well, I'm going to I'm going to figure out the logic and say, well, it's through game ID, so I'm going to build this out. The automatically generate the set that really this represents. And then the updates would happen automatically. This is really for the stats page. Is if I'm editing stats in here. Oh no, where are my stats? Did I not stat this site? I might not have added stats. Maybe this is the only one. So if I like removed one of these stats, like I just have to destroy it, and then the stat will be removed from this list. That already happens in CanJS, but the inverse works now too. If updates, like if I somehow to say, hey, no, this stat belongs to a different game, well then if I would list it, like it would just show up under that game. That's why you do this kind of thing. So.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it bears a little bit more explanation there. All the things you just said.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I link to these things, but yeah, I mean, it's a conceptual thing. I'm not sure where to put it. I guess I could put it more in here, but it's just, you got to think of, there's the list store, and if you have a list that doesn't know, like if you have a list that wasn't retrieved through like get list, well, you never provided it any parameters to know if it gets in the store, what belongs in it and what doesn't. So you need to associate your list with the set that it represents, and this is the way that you do that. And then you get all that like fun behavior. So this is the way that you do that. Yeah. There
Right,
needs to be a
but
better way too, which is not like some double underscore property.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking, like, if you don't know about or think about the list store, it doesn't make sense what's going on there. I think even adding a sentence that says now anytime a new stat is created, it will become part of this list if it's associated with this game.
Yeah.
But
Well, it
the
does
other-
say that. It does say that right here.
Does it say that?
Stats
It does say
that. It does say exactly
Well,
what
now
you
I feel
just
dumb.
said. It just words slightly rearranged. Yeah.
All right. Well,
No, I know but it is
Anyways.
complex, heady stuff, right? This is very different than like what people are used to. But it's, to me, I love it. I don't know. It's so cool that stuff just shows up in your lists now.
the other one was there was about a small part about the relational algebra, where you define the game's algebra. And it says in there, to match query parameters of our service and eventually Bookshelf expects, we need to define a custom set algebra.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows what the algebra is, but it didn't. I guess for me, like, I don't know, maybe it's the way I learn is I want to see like what this translates into. So this gets translated into the special query parameters.
Yeah, basically what this is saying is, well, sort by is used to indicate sorting.
Well, I know what it's used, but I guess to me what does that result in? I guess is
Well, what does the algebra result in? Huh?
Yeah. What does that cause?
It
to the rest to outside this application.
Outside.
Well, not outside the application, but outside of this code snippet. What does
like
this
if you
do?
didn't have this, what would happen versus by having this, what happens?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so if you didn't have this, like, and it saw a sort by property, it would try to assume that that's a filter, and it would look for, like if it was going to local storage, it would go, and you had a bunch of items in local storage, and you had, in your query, you had sort by player ID or something like that. Well, what it would do is look for proper objects, actual instances with a sort by property that is player ID, and only get them.
Okay, so this is saying sort by the sort by property.
This is saying the sort by property doesn't do filtering. Instead, it's actually a sort property.
So this defining algebra doesn't change what query parameters get, what the query parameters are when you do a.
No, yeah, it's used to identify your query parameters. It's to say that this query parameter reflects sorting. Where your filters are essentially nested inside of a where clause. Right.
Okay.
So, that's why it's like, oh, team ID. Well, normally the default behavior is to assume team ID is just part of your parameters, so you'd have team ID 5. But if you want it nested like this, well, then you need to say, well, all my filter properties are actually going to be inside this where.
Okay.
That's what that does. And I can give that more teeth to that explanation. But the way that I think about it is algebras are really, they're just really a way to describe your service layer. The more that I think about them, they're just saying like, hey, my filtering properties these are my filtering properties. This is my sorting property. This filter, you can also do this filtering property filters this way. These are my pagination properties, and you're basically describing the behavior of your service.
But it sounds like it's a way to understand the response of the service. I was thinking it affects like how we query the service, but it doesn't.
No, you query the service how the service wants to be queried. This is a way to describe what that query actually means.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's kind of different. Like, I don't know. This is very different. It's because we are, we go as a consulting shop. We go to. This is somewhat like the problem with us versus like everywhere else. Is we go to all these different consulting companies, there are all these different companies to do consulting. They have backends written in every single way possible that we can't say, hey, rewrite your whole backend. So we need a way to say, okay, we want some rich behavior like fall-through caching or fixtures or real-time behavior. Well, we can't control your service API, but now what we can do is say, well, we can provide a description for that service API so we can know how it works and set everything up on the client to use that service API correctly. So that we can just make requests as normal, but under the hood, all the connection behaviors can do what they're supposed to do. And this is the reason I'm saying this is a problem for. The reason why I'm saying this is a problem for us, kind of as Bitovi as an organization, is that like, well, Meteor will just say, well, you don't have to deal with anything like this because every service API looks the exact same because we do the back end and the front end, right? You know, I don't know how much, like David, I don't know how much flexibility Feathers has, but I assume Feathers is very much like, here's the service API, which is very nice that everybody can just say, like, here's the service API. You should really consider sticking to it. But because everybody has their own different way of describing services, and we want to work with all of them, this is why algebras exist now.
Okay, those are my only two things.
Cool.
Thank you.
Good questions. Anybody else? Awesome. Hey, good talking to you all. Have a great weekend.
All right, been fun.
Thumbs up. All right, see ya. Bye.